Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. So we are digging right back in. We're going to just keep sailing through and looking at the seeds and the reasonings and the ideas, the suggestions that set themselves up against our identity. So Satan did that with Eve. We see it again here with Gideon, because Gideon, the Israelites are in bondage right now. They are being tormented by the Midianites. They are oppressed. They have no food, and it's because they were disobedient to God. But none of that. Well, not only were they disobedient, but they forgot God. When we push God aside, it's not his fault when evil comes. We have rejected God. So that means we have accepted and bowed our knee to the enemy. There's only two sides here. There's black and white, good and evil. The two do not mix. We've already talked about that from Corinthians, what fellowship has light with darkness. The two cannot exist at the same time and occupy the same space. It cannot happen. So Israel had removed God, forgotten God, chosen to go against God. And so all of this oppression comes in, pressing. Satan has dropped seeds of suggestions, right? Arguments, theories, reasonings, and proud things that set themselves up against the knowledge of God. So that is when Gideon says, I am not the one. My clan is the poorest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. So what has happened has now affected Gideon's mindset and who he is. He is still one of God's people. He still has covenant with Jehovah. Satan works so hard for us to forget that. Gideon had lost the thought of that. David, when he challenged Goliath, he said, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that dare challenge the armies of the living God? So while Israel, Saul and all of the armies of Israel had been berated and were terrified and were pressed down and oppressed and fearful of what this giant was going to do to them, they absolutely forgot to look at who they are and who their God is in relation to who this giant is. And so they had all of the natural things, but had forgotten the true knowledge of God. And that's what Corinthians tells us. 2 Corinthians 10, he says, we refute those arguments and theories and reasonings and every proud and lofty thing that sets itself up against the true knowledge of God. And we lead every thought and purpose away captive into the obedience of Christ. But David did that. He recognized immediately, what? We have covenant with God. We are his people. And that's why he used, I am of the opinion that the Bible is very specific, that we're not given unnecessary details. If it's in there, there's a reason God put it in there. And so when it's 1 Samuel 17 is where the account of David is, which, good gracious, y'all. David's on my list too, but we're jumping here to tie this in with Gideon. He said, let's just go 1 Samuel 17:23. And as they talked, behold, Goliath, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, came forth from the Philistine ranks and spoke the same words as before, and David heard him. So what he says is what he's been saying, all right? And all the men of Israel were terrified when they saw the man, and they fled from him terrified. Verse 26, and David said to the men standing by him, so the other Israelites, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? Uncircumcised, right? Because circumcision was the sign of covenant with God, that you were God's people. So David saying that wasn't just a throw off, but it was an absolute distinction, refuting the arguments, the lofty things, reasoning. Of course, this giant could defeat us, but not based on who our God is. So David saying that uncircumcised Philistine put in perspective that he is not God's, and that we are God's, the living gods. Okay? So we'll pick up here again tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye, y'all.